right, more Breya today. I made a couple of swaps. Brian was urging me to play with Skull Clamp. For people who are familiar with how good Clamp is in Breya, I'm sure this comes as no surprise, but Brian was right. Clamp definitely belongs in here. It is effectively Skull Clamp is to the Breya deck what Well of Lost Dreams is to the Oloro deck, basically. And then the other card that I took out the Coercive Portal and I swapped in the Skull Clamp, mainly because I ran out of room. I'd love to have the Portal in the deck, but you got to make cuts somewhere. And if it's going to be an artifact that I'm going to search for in order to draw cards, other than Crucible Scroll Rack, I'd rather go get a cheaper one rather than a more expensive one. And Skull Clamp gets me the cards right now rather than over time. Frequently, because it combos so well with both my commander as well as Duretti, and it also gives me a way to get rid of Confidant if I'm in trouble. And it interestingly kind of combos with Shackles. So you Shackles away their bird or Llanowar Elf, and then stick it in the clamp and untap and do it again. It's quickly game over for somebody like that. The other thing you can do with clamp is you can potentially Toxic Deluge. So like you can use Trinket Mage to go get a Skull Clamp and put the clamp on the Trinket Mage. And a lot of times opponents will not want to swing in and give you two cards. And so what you've basically done is turn Trinket Mage into Moat. And that's kind of awesome too, especially since somewhere down the road you'll probably Toxic Deluge or play the Abyss, and the Trinket Mage will die anyway, and you'll get the cards regardless. So it's very awesome in here. One thing you cannot do with Skull Clamp, well, basically you cannot do is you cannot clamp it onto Breya, sack the Breya, and then get cards unless you're willing to put Breya in your own graveyard. If you're putting it in the command zone, it won't trigger. So just keep that in mind. It's something I figured out today. I think it comes up in one of these games. I figured it out through trial and error. I wasn't really thinking about it until I wondered why I didn't get my cards and then put it together. So anyway, those are the two changes. In order to put in Clamp, like I said, Portal came out, and then to put in the other change here was Anguished Unmaking. In order to put that in the deck, I took out Fire Ice. Fire Ice has a place. I really, really want to play Fire Ice. The problem is, as nice as it is to have all the wonderful little tricks with it, like tapping my own Winter Orb, or my opponents, or their Trinisphere, like as you saw in some other games, I would much rather just Anguish on making my opponent's Winter Orb or Trinisphere. So other than the tricks that it gives me on my own stuff, it's probably just better to remove target permanent as an instant, and to have that capability multiple times in case I've burned a Vindicate on like an early land or something and I need to Mystical Tutor my way out of a problem. Anguish on making is kind of that solve everything problem. If it's a single target, it's a single permanent that you can target that's giving you the problems in the first place. So those are the changes, and I've got some games. So initially today I tried a few other things that didn't work. You can see I started out with the deck, then I made some adjustments, and then it went really bad, and then I took out those adjustments. So what didn't work? I tried putting in Snapcaster. I put in Trophy Mage, and I put in Rolling Earthquake, and I also tried putting in, so that didn't work out very well for me because the cards I had to cut in order to make room for them. It wasn't that the cards are bad. In fact, most of those cards are pretty awesome, but it didn't really work out well with what I was. It's the sum and total of the deck that matters, not the individual cards as much. And then the other change I made was I tried something kind of drastic and different. I put in Serra Ascendant, Stoneforge Mystic. I put in Trophy Mage again, Snapcaster again. I think I put in Phyrexian Metamorph. I added Sword of Feast and Famine and Umezawa's Jite. And that experiment went horribly wrong. Basically, I was your pick. I was either a very bad control deck or I was a very bad aggro deck. I was not an aggro control deck by any means. An aggro control deck is just an aggressive deck with enough counters to stall long enough to win, and I certainly wasn't that because I didn't have the aggro portion of the aggro control, and I gutted my control to fit all those other cards in there. It was just all around bad. That's when I got my 2 losses, and finally I said forget it. I'm going back to what I enjoy and what I like the most is to play control. But the way I would describe this Breya deck is if Olaro is an analog for the deck, the original the deck. Breya is something like what the deck turned into after Force of Will and Mox Monkey were printed, after Gorilla Shaman was printed, because then the deck had a much more consistent way to mass destroy artifacts, and with that, it could suddenly go up to the full count. It had by then it had wastelands and strip mines and mox monkeys. It could afford to tap out on a turn to kill multiple artifacts because Force of Will protected it, and it was just a much more. It was still the deck, but it was a much more kind of in your face, destroy your permanents, and do it quickly style of play that didn't kick back and give the opponent the possibility of top decking their way out of a situation because you clamp down on their mana so hard. So this deck does the same thing. Of course, Laurel clamps down on mana, but it does it kind of slower in a more Drago fashion, whereas this deck does it in a more deploy disruption early type of fashion, and I really enjoy playing it. So I'll probably be playing it for a while. So I'm going to run through some games, and I appreciate it if you stuck around for all that gabbing. I will try to remember to add a link in the description so that you can skip ahead. So anyway, I'm playing here against Horde of Notions, and I got a pretty nuts draw. Turn 1 Soul Ring into Talisman, into Blue-White Talisman. My opponent had gone first and played a Mana Dork, so he's actually got 4 mana on turn 2. And I've got 5 mana on turn 2 into Guild of Lotus, putting me up to 8. He plays Jace. So he's now got 5 mana and a Jace. I have a War of Inventions and a Cryptic Command in my hand, so I just play my commander. And then I'm able to whir using the Thopters to go get Winter Orb. The Thopters off my commander are amazing when it comes to War of Invention because they basically produce mana, as does Breya if I want it. War of Invention is just insane in a deck like this in general because of the fact that you can tap Winter Orb for value at the end of your opponent's turn sometimes, and other times you're fetching it. And the rest of the time, of course, you know, it's just a super flexible, amazing card. But anyway, so I use those guys to go get Winter Orb, then sacked the 2 Thopters I just tapped for Whir in order to deal 3 to my opponent and kill his Jace. And at that point, my opponent just gave up. He's completely tapped out. He's got a Mana Elf, but basically tapped out with no permanents other than, you know, a land and a Mana Dork, facing Breya with access to, what is it, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 mana per turn, plus a land, possibly 8 mana per turn. I think it's reasonable for him to scoop there. Not that my opinion matters to him, I don't think. But, so in the, I had to mulligan early, but I'm facing a red-white. It looks like some kind of, it was some kind of equipment deck. And he gets to go, or I get to go first, but he gets a first turn Plains Mana Crypt Cultivator's Caravan. That Caravan is a great card, and if I needed one more 3-drop to produce any color, I'd probably play it even in a control deck, simply for the fact that I could cast my commander and immediately activate that thing and smash for 5. And when you're facing Planeswalkers, that could be really good. Well, anyway, so he is able to ramp into his commander, but I Demonic Tutored turn 2 for an Ancient Tomb to go with the Abyss in my hand, so I play the Abyss. And so now he's down to just his commander and in his hand, and not much else. So anyway, I play a Jace. It looks basic. It looks like it's a bait. So Jace looks like he should be able to play his commander here, activate one of his equipment spells, or not equipment, vehicles, and then smash Jace. Well, he takes the bait, he activates his equipment, and then I Swords to Plowshare as his creature. So then I get to continue to Jace. His guy, of course, is going to die to the Abyss in short order. And so it's at this time I feel pretty comfortable playing Breya. So now I've got 3 artifact creatures to go with my Abyss and to protect my Jace. It also gives me Metalcraft so that I can untap and Stoke Rebuttal will be on board. And with that, my opponent scoops it up. His commander's already died twice. So it's costing him 7 mana now, and he's got 6. So in theory he could play it, but I'm just playing the commander with the Abyss out there. It's not going to work too well. I guess he didn't have I don't know what he needed here. What would have been good? Maybe two, three, four, five. If he would have played a land and maybe Karn, I don't know. He was pretty much done for. Anyway, and that's probably why he scooped. All right, I have to check that message out in a second. So I get another game against a guy playing a creature who is the same colors as Oloro, but is not Oloro or Zur for some strange reason. So he gets first turn island. I go first. I get first turn land tax, second turn, or no, first turn ponder, second turn land tax, mana crypt, Vedalken Shackles. And then I don't play a land, and he just, I don't know what he's doing. He just walks right into it, gives me some lands, and I guess he realizes his mistake. As soon as he does that, he scoops. So I don't know if you caught that there, but when I searched with tax, I only found 2 islands, and I realized I had somehow made a mistake. I was talking to Brian about changes I wanted to make. I sent him a screenshot and everything. I was all excited. I finally had figured out how to get everything I wanted in the deck. And right when I land taxed for only 2 islands, I realized somehow I had screwed up majorly. And those games we just watched, I was playing with 28 lands, and only 2 of them were basic islands. So I quickly stripped out the cards that I unfortunately wanted to keep in the deck. I wanted to keep Rolling Earthquake in the deck, but I had to make a cut somewhere. I had to put some more land in. I was just too shy. So anyway, this guy is playing Leovold. He leads off with first turn Burgeoning. He's going first. I do have a Force of Will, and I could force it, but I'm not going to force the Burgeoning. It doesn't. It's going to give him speed, but it's not going to give him actual. It doesn't give him it's not action cards. So anyway, so it allows him to play though his commander very quickly. And then he ramps even further into 4 lands, but I have a land tax hand, so land tax doesn't care about Leovold at all. So he deploys more mana, but I'm just going to go ahead and I'm sitting on force. I'm going to tax up. And with tax on the stack, somehow he decides to beast within one of my lands, so I just let that go. I'm not quite sure how that makes any sense since I now have a blocker for Leovold. So I taxed for a couple, and then I drew a talisman, so I could actually tax for 3 here. And my opponent plays Oracle of Moldiah, gets a land off the top, and he's revealing Rhystic Study with only 1 card in hand. So on my turn, I untap. I get land tax on the stack. I'm going to go draw more land. I've got a Merchant Scroll in hand, and I have 3 counter spells. So at this point, the plan was just to go get some extra lands, play one of them, cast Merchant Scroll for, I don't know, Mystical Tutor probably. Force of Will is Rhystic Study, and then drive on with the game. I'm not even entirely sure what I was thinking here, because it's just a very strong, very good position for me. And unfortunately, that guy just decided it was a little too strong for him, perhaps. But he just wanted to scoop and get out of that game, so can't do anything about that. Got another crazy good hand against a green-white player, so I keep, of course. I play first turn Soul Ring, going first, and he scoops. Fair enough. All right, so this guy, football. Excellent hand. He's playing black-green. I've got a Ancient Tomb into Dimer's Signet, follow up with the Abyss and some other mana development. So he gets second turn Hermit Druid, and I'm really glad I saw a basic land over there, because that tells me that he's not playing like instant kill you by activating Hermit Druid. Instead, he plays Mesmeric Orb. Now, had I not seen any basic lands and I saw a Hermit Druid, I would have played differently. I would have actually blown a tutor just to find a way to kill that Hermit or stop that Hermit if possible, because in some decks, if Hermit activates once, you've lost. Like, the game's just over on the spot. Anyway, so I'm still fighting. I'm still dealing with Mesmeric Orb, and I just decided that the way to deal with it is to not deal with it and to continue to develop my board. So at this point, I have this incredible mana base. My opponent's still milking off cards, and he tries to reanimate a Rune-Scarred Demon, so I flashback Mystical Teachings, which was put there from his Mesmeric Orb. Mana Drain is Reanimate. Why not? I mean, clearly I'm having mana issues, right? Anyway, more mana is always good. So I'm milling off tons of cards now at this point. But draw into a Winter Orb, so I go ahead and ponder up a tutor. Oh, no, excuse me. I Enlighten Tutor into a Winter Orb. So I go ahead and ponder as well. And then I don't quite think, I bet this is going to be a bugged, it's going to be a bugged hand. I think we're going to bug here. Yeah, you still see Rolling Earthquake in this list. Yeah, I think this is going to bug out for sure. Anyway, bottom line is I orb him down, kill his. I think I shackles actually. I don't think this is mystical tutor, but anyway, I shackles. That is so weird. What is it trying to do? I orb him down. I shackles him. I'm sure that wasn't mystical because I would have got Yawgmoth's Will most likely. Oh, can we please stop this? That was ugly. Anyway, and then at that point, facing the abyss and a no creatures. I'm pretty sure actually what I did on that turn was I played my commander. That's what I did. I played my commander, and then I just killed one of his guys, and then I let the other one get chomped by the abyss. And now I'm sitting there with my commander, and he's locked under the orb, and I'm starting to smash his face, and then he quit. So anyway, this guy playing another sliver deck actually. So I get first turn Coalition Relic off of a workshop, which I can charge, and then turn 2 I draw War of Invention while holding Lantern. So great. But I realize I don't need to whir early. I can actually cast my commander here. So it's amazing. I get turn 2 Breya. Now I'm getting in there for some damage, and then after I attack, I realize that if I hadn't necessarily attacked with all of the flyers, I could have used them to charge to make a bigger War of Invention. So I'm sitting here trying to figure out exactly what it is that I want to whir for. I think does this game play out or does it bug? I don't remember. So I whir for 2. Oh yeah, so I just orb him down. And then from there, I'm able to. He can't keep a creature in play, so he just slivers decks with no creatures and no mana. So now at this point, I've just got tons and tons of mana. And before I can cast Mana Crypt, Karn Liberated, 2 turns later, before I can actually finish getting Karn even on the stack and announced, my opponent just scoops, realizing that he's pretty helpless there. So unfortunately, Orifice. I'm not even going to make that pun. All right, so that's too much of a softball. Anyway, so this guy playing Teferi loses a dice roll. I have a great draw with Mana Vault. So I go first turn Vault, second turn Chromatic Lantern Duretti. The good Duretti, Iconoclast. I start making guys. Now at this point, what is a blue deck supposed to do? He has to get Duretti off the table. But if he can't get Duretti off the table, then he cannot play artifacts mana to keep up with my ramp, and he cannot play creatures to put pressure on me. So other than artifacts or creatures, like what is he supposed to do? So he decides to play an artifact anyway. So I've now got land tax running. I'm holding a Force of Will and a Vampiric Tutor and a Wasteland, plus the 3 lands I just tutored for. So I go ahead and just vamp for a Scroll Rack. It's just so easy to put tax rack together in this deck. And I immediately rack away everything but the Force of Will, leaving me with 3 cards that are not blue and Force of Will, and then I Duretti his guy off the table. But it doesn't matter. He has no play, no relevant play. I suppose he might have had a play that would have died to Duretti, but he chose not to make that play. Anyway, so on my turn I get to tax up again, taking 3 basic lands, and I think we're gonna bug again. Here it's getting a little frustrating now, but that's the story of Magic Online and their garbage interface. So anyway, we're gonna bug out, but basically, I'm drawing 5 cards per turn. My opponent cannot cast anything, and somehow I managed to win that game. So, oh yeah, and somewhere in there I found a deprive, which allowed me to. I find a deprive somewhere in there, which allows me to deploy an additional land and use it for value, and then deprive a spell and continue on with the land tax scroll rack madness. So I'm just going to scoop here. Suffice to say, at this point in time where I've got, sorry, I'm not going to scoop. I'm going to move on to the next game. But suffice to say, at this point in time where I was holding 11 cards, so I have more card. I have as many cards in my hand as my opponent's entire hand plus all of his permanents, and that's just what's in my hand. So as you can imagine, I somehow managed to win this game, and we can move on to another one. Basically what I do is I just generate tons and tons of mana, and then I go ahead and Mind Twist him with Force of Will and Counterspell backup. Not that any of that was needed at that point. So, new game against Oof. Oof 77 playing Ixidor. So I have yet again, first turn Lance Axe. Guess what? So good against blue. It's like first turn Lantex, blue deck. Do you have a counterspell? No? Okay, well, you better have some broken mana because if not, I'm going to generate too much of what blue does not want me to have, both mana and cards. So anyway, he didn't have anything, so I get to tax. I then start setting myself up using Brainstorm to put some cards back, getting a Soul Ring. I'm sitting on 2 lands now, so I offer him the ability to not play a land and get taxed. He decides to go with that plan, not playing a land, so that he doesn't get taxed, which means that my Vindicate is much, much stronger because his other land is Maze of Ith. And on the following turn, he doesn't have 2 blue, so I Mind Twist his hand away. And he scoops. So, just the fact that Lantax right there got me 2 islands, which I played, plus 2 other islands, which I brainstormed back into the deck and turned into real cards, was just savage. 1 white, draw 4. It's pretty good. All right, Marco's PMA. And it's just so easy to put together whatever you want now with, especially with War adding to the tutor count. So this guy, this poor guy, I get first turn City of Brass, Mana Crypt, Mana Vault, end of turn Vampiric Tutor. He's playing mono black. Draw land, Mind Twist you for your hand. Seems pretty good. So he goes down to Swamp in play, no cards in hand, and he scoops. That was a good turn too. Tisk, tisk, tisk. Playing mono black, has no disruption on turn 1, and I don't think you can afford no speed. I don't think in mono black you can afford that. All right, so here I'm playing against an opposing Duretti, but I get first turn Island into Soul Ring into Talisman into Clamp. That's turn 1. Turn 2 I Tezzeret and activate it for 3, going and getting Coalition Relic, holding Force of Will and Muddle as my last 2 cards. And the reason I got Relic was that so that on turn 4 I could play Breya and then Clamp and jump back up to a full hand immediately. So then I get down, Clamp my Breya, I play Mana Vault, untapped. My opponent's played his 3rd land. Oh, sorry, it wasn't turn 4, it was turn 3. So I have Clamp on Breya thinking that I'm going to get cards out of it, so I go ahead and just tap and play accordingly. Was completely spacing out on the fact that Breya would go to the command zone and never touch the graveyard. But as it turns out, it really, really doesn't matter, because at this point in the game, my opponent's seen a grand total of 10 cards, and I have seen 17. So he's basically like we started the game and I got to have 2 hands of 7 against his 1 hand of 7. So yeah, pretty good. And not just see them and draw them, but deploy them. So, new game. I'm playing against Chesimir D, playing Teza Orzhov Scion. And he makes a key mistake in this game that bites him. I don't think in the end that it would have made much of a difference, but we'll see. So he gets Suture Priest into Demonic Tutor. I get a Brainstorm end step and shuffle away some cards I don't want with a fetch. I get to play a land tax, and I decide I'm going to sit on a Deprive. He plays a Morph, but he plays Cabal Coffers, and he's already got Urborg out, so now he has the Urborg Coffers thing going. I do get to tax as a result of his playing, so I decide that I'm actually going to kind of let him do something here. I draw 3 cards off a tax, play my land Dynamo into Crucible. My opponent, seeing that I have a Crucible and fetch land in the graveyard, I guess, plays Bojuka Bog. Anyway, so he now has a Sacrifice outlet, a card that says whenever it Blood Artist, it does damage whenever a creature dies. I, on the other hand, set myself up using Muddle to transmute into Scroll Rack. He plays his Commander, So now, and then Rotling Reanimator. So if Rotling Reanimator hits, that is scary stuff. And then I realized that I I did my lands wrong, and I'm gonna have to actually let it happen. So end of his turn, I scroll rack. It actually put back 2 lands and a counterspell, leaving me with Deprive and Mana Drain. I want Deprive so that I can play a land and then go back to tax rack when I need to. And look at that top deck. Without having to tutor or anything, after taxing, I naturally draw Terminus. So I reveal Terminus, and I put the Miracle on the stack. Rather, I don't reveal Terminus yet. So the Miracle's on the stack saying, hey, you can cast the card for its mana cost. You may. So in response, he sacks all of his guys. And this is his big mistake. And we talked about it a little bit, and I was describing to him the channel. And hopefully, if you're checking this out, the thing to do is you wait for, you probably already know this by now, but if you are watching the channel, the thing to do here would have been to wait for the may cast the card to wear off and have me put Terminus on the stack and announce that I have indeed chosen to cast the card, then respond. He does not, so I just don't play Terminus. He sacked all his guys, dropped me down to 20. I'm just not going to throw away a card that I don't need to throw away on creatures that aren't there. Funny enough that black-white creature now has protection from all colors. It actually says protection from all colors, which is kind of cool. Anyway, so I get to deploy Teferi. I mean, again, I'm running tax rack for the, what is this? It's like 5 out of 7 games I've run tax rack out against my opponents. So just too difficult to beat. Now, even though I didn't do the thing with the Terminus, even though I kind of made the tech play on the Terminus, or he made the mistake and I was able to capitalize on that, I decided not to capitalize too hard, so I never actually play it. I just run through the rest of the game. I mean, it is enough that his board was swept once. I was kind of feeling bad, actually. I should have told him. In hindsight, after the fact, I was thinking about it. I was like, you know what? I should have just played it just to and explain to him. But on the other hand, it was like, well, maybe if I don't, then he'll remember this, and it will be more beneficial in the long run. So that's the route I went with. Anyway, he had a Planeswalker out, so I play my commander, sack the 2 flyers and a couple of artifacts that aren't super important at this point in the game, and kill his Planeswalker right away. Then he goes for a white Reanimator spell that I haven't seen, which is really interesting. Return X cards with converted mana cost X or less to the battlefield. That's crazy. What are they doing with creatures? Anyway, I mana drain it, but jeez. Return to the something or other. Return to the ranks. That is just slightly good. Oh, and it has Convoke? My gosh. That is way too good. But that's why I countered it. Anyway, it's crazy stuff. So anyway, on my turn, I do a bunch of shenanigans. But when I were for Vedalken Shackles to take his creature there, leaving him with just 2 cards in hand and very little mana against quite dominating board position, he scoops. If you didn't, however, Tezzeret was sitting here with 5 counters, so I had 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40 points of damage that I could attack with next turn. I'm going to attack for 4 this turn, so that's 44, which would have left him at 10. And then from there, I could have sacked artifacts 2 at a time to deal 3, 6, 9, 12 to him and win the game next turn. So we were good either way, but it was kind of cool. Kind of cool. And then I play against this guy, Leo Dyke. And he's running a green-blue and blue-red partner commanders. And I really like the green-blue commander he's using. But anyway, I get a pretty nuts start. First turn, command tower into Soul Ring into Expedition map. Second turn, I Wasteland from hand, sack the map, and go get Strip Mine. Turn 3, I play Mana Crypt into Teferi. At this point, my opponent has just an Expedition map as his only permanent, and I'm sitting on Teferi, Crypt, Soul Ring, Island, Command Tower, and a land tax. I start plussing Teferi up, actually, to draw cards. My plan, of course, is to deploy my commander on the next turn, most likely, or I'll just continue to draw cards. who knows? Doesn't matter. Game's definitely over. So he scoops, and I don't think he felt like that was a particularly representative game. That was just a crazy hand where everything comes together. So we start again, same commanders, and I have a much more reserved hand. I get first turn Skull Clamp, and I've got nothing I can do on turn 2. He gets his blue-green commander out, where it's basically a Jam-Day Tome, even better in some ways. With a 1/3 for 2 mana that has a Jam-Day Tome's body on it. It's pretty amazing, actually. Is this gonna... Oh, we're not gonna bug, are we? Uh-oh. Are we bugging? Because this game was kind of interesting, I think. I see what's happening. So my computer is getting overtaxed right now. I don't even know if this portion of the recording is going through or not, or if we just stopped in the middle of it all. And is Magic just going to crash, or what's going on here? It's more Magic Online nonsense. It might be easier for me to just crash the game. I really don't want to do the entire recording over for this one game, but I kind of wanted to include it in the videos. So, and then I was going to respond to this gentleman here, but okay. Did we get out of it? We might have. Toast view. Been a while since I've seen toast view pop-ups. All I know is that when they pop up, it's generally good. I'm going to try to end Magic Online temporarily. There's my son Thomas, future Magic player. Hopefully, maybe. We'll see. Right now, he will. I give him the Magic cards. He'll just have 3 choices. He'll want to throw it. He'll probably want to eat it, or he will want to use it to do something like cram it into one of his toys or something. So we'll wait a little bit, maybe another year before I start teaching him the game. Although actually, it's funny. So my son, 3 years old, he's already able to navigate like my wife's iPad and stuff like that. So it's just amazing. It's amazing how fast he picks it up. I guess I'm not totally amazed, or I guess I'm not shocked, I should say, but I am kind of amazed. It is pretty interesting. And I'm getting logged back in here. We'll run through that last game, and we'll wrap this video up. Hopefully, you haven't been too bored. And then I'll also bring up the deck list one last time in case that is helpful for you. I do owe one of the viewers who asked me a deck list proper, but that takes a little bit more time. It's either play Magic or put together a deck list. So I will probably do that, but it might be a little while. Besides which, the deck's still kind of getting locked down. This weekend I have to do my military weekend anyway, so I won't be doing much Magic this weekend. It's only because my wife isn't here, my son are out of town, that I am not otherwise engaged, and I can do Magic during the week like I'm doing. So anyway, last game. So we kind of know how this starts out, right? So I deploy the Skull Clamp, and then at the end of his turn, on turn 3, I attempt to Anguish Unmaking his guy. This is either good for me because it kills his guy, or it's good for me because he taps out. If he had tapped out, I was just going to play my commander, Mana Crypt, and then sack the guys and kill his guy right away. Instead, I drew a Demonic Tutor after his guy gets removed. So I Demonic Tutor for Soul Ring and play that. He decides the Soul Ring's better off as a 3/3 beast on my part, and then tries to play an Overflowing Chalice, which I forbid, only because he seems to be missing land drops, and it looks like the tempo payout for that is really good. And I have Breya coming down with Clamp Clamp to refill my hand, and then I find myself Ponder as well. So now with Breya on the table, I'm hitting him for 7 per turn, 8 if I want to clamp one of the either the beast or the Breya, which would be the beast, of course, because he'll actually give me cards when he dies. But I am now able to play an aggro control game rather than pure control. At the end of my opponent's turn, he does nothing but play Wayfarer's Bauble, so I play Whir of Invention for 5, intending to get Gilded Lotus. He condescends for 1, and unfortunately for him, that was a bait spell. During my upkeep, I have Empiric Tutor, and Mind Twist his hand away. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cards hit the bin. And what's neat about this, what I really think was cool is, so he discarded from the Mind Twist. So other than Beast Within and Chalice, what I've seen from him in the Wayfarer's Bauble, I've seen a Condescend, Cyclonic Rift, Fact or Fiction, Muddled Mixture, Cryptic Command, Tezzeret, and Karn. 100% of cards that are actually in this deck that I'm playing him with, and the majority of my blue decks as well. So clearly I am playing with a savvy opponent who has a good idea of what should be in deck construction. But I'm playing, after the Mind Twist, I start playing sloppy, and he actually gets a chance to get back in this game a little bit. So he plays his Jamde Tome Commander, who isn't really going to do too much. And then I sack, so I quit Breya and sack Mana Crypt, thinking that I'm going to draw 2 cards, and I don't. To my surprise, that's where I find out, or am reminded of the fact that the commander doesn't go to the discard pile. So then I make another stupid play. I'm holding Swords to Plowshares. I tap out completely for a Jace. We might be bugging again, or is Magic Online just crashing? My goodness, I hate this program. Come on, Magic, get it together. Anyway, so this is a stupid play because his red commander has haste, so I just cast a Jace and then tapped out and said, hey, why don't you slam your red commander into my Jace if you draw a land next turn, which he then does. And it ultimately, I can't do anything. I think I replay Breya on the next turn. He has not really much of anything. Yeah, I think I replay Breya on the next turn. He doesn't have much of anything, and then oh, what happens next? I believe I draw a bunch of cards, shackles his big guy. At this point, remember, he's been getting hit in the face too with this beast. Shackles his big guy. He actually didn't attack with it on that turn because he was trying to discourage me from attacking him because he's pretty low on life. So I shackles his big guy and attack with the beast, his commander, my commander, dropping him to 9, and then I just tap a bunch of mana, sack, 3 artifacts in total, and reduce him from 9 to 0 in a single turn, dealing a total of 21 damage in 1 attack. So Breya is just kind of explosive like that. I'm going to, this gives me an idea. I am going to, because I've had somebody mention the deck list, instead of putting one together, what I'm going to do is grab one of these games where I start off with a fetch land, and I'm going to pause as soon as I fetch. So this isn't one of them. So this is a game against Orifice. And then what I'll do is you can take a look at the deck list, because I'll blow it up on my screen, and we'll see if that helps. All right, so I'm not fetching here, but I'm about to. I think maybe I'll do one step at a time. All right, my opponent does some stuff that I don't care about because it's not fetch. Oh no, that's gonna throw things way off. Let's not do that one. I need a game where nothing happens except an early fetch, and surely there is a game like that here. Okay, well, the Vampiric Tutor will do. So, yeah, first turn Vault. Second turn... Oh, no. God, dog it. Where is a game where I just have a fetch land? Come on. It's funny. I feel like I play fetch lands on turn 1 basically like all the time. And yet, apparently it's not anywhere near with the frequency that I thought, even having 10 of them in the deck. Alright, so this looks like a turn 2 fetch. Okay, so this will give us a decent look at the deck, I think. I'm going to brainstorm. I guess that won't hurt. too much. We'll roll with that. Okay, about to see all those cards. And there we go. Okay, so I have in the graveyard the Scalding Tarn and a Brainstorm, and in play I have Steam Vent. So if you put that together with the rest of these cards, my hand plus all of this, this is the deck list. So it's everything you see on the screen now, plus Scalding Tarn, Brainstorm, and Steam Vents. And that's nice because this actually sorts all the non-land fetchables alphabetically, which might make it easier to track the listing for some people if going by color is not something you want to do. So I will see if I can I blow it up any more? I can any more than that, it starts to actually get kind of ugly. So yeah, so there's the deck list there. Hopefully that helps. If that's not sufficient, I will try to provide a full list, but you know, it could change anytime, given that still playing around with the correct mix of cards. So that's all I've got today. Hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.